Welcome to NFT Sundays, a weekly conversation around art and technology, brought to you by DMINTI and the Museum of Crypto Art. Okay, welcome back to another episode of NFT Sundays. I'm Colborn, Museum of Crypto Art. I am here with the incredible, the talented artist, Federico Solmi. Thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure, Colborn. It's a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. I like to start every episode turning it over to you. You know, I'd love to hear anything you'd like to share about yourself, your story, and your art.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I would say that my story is kind of like unusual because like many artists of my generation, I never had the traditional college graduate path, didn't go to any fancy school. I simply at one point I desired to become an artist, and I was born in Italy in 1973, and I thought the only place to me to make my dream true is to come to New York, and at one point, in 1999, I had the courage to come here and I reinvent my life, and I came to New York and I never left. So my traditional, culture was to admire the old masters, and step by step, I try to understand modernism, I try to understand American art, always, with a lot of books, since I don't have any professor or any mentor. And step by step, I was able to start to exhibit around 2003, 2004 in some cool gallery in Brooklyn, and I start to get involved, in a lot of exhibition in traditional gallery museum, New York, LA, Miami, and step by step, I was able to be imported also in Europe and in Asia. So, and step by step, I was able to create, I would say, like a work that was both inspired by a great tradition of European and ancient culture and old masters, but also combining the new technology that were start to come to our disposal. For example, around 2003, I became to be interested in gaming technology, and in particular, I remember I bought the Grand Theft Auto, and the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And I remember it was like a complete shock, because I said, "Wow, this is crazy! I can, steal this police car, jump into this car, changing the radio station, and driving through the street where I live." So, and I started to say, "Wow, what about I try to do, a recording of my, the video game, that I was playing, and what about I try to split it into frames and translate it into drawings?" So this was 2004. I did my video animation, in which I combine, gaming assets and gaming technology with drawings and painting, and immediately I thought that changed my life. It changed my life immediately, because I said, "Wow!" Of course, this didn't happen immediately, but within a few months, I said, I need to start to create my own assets. I start to need to create my 3D model. I need to create my gaming environment. So in a way, I can create a parallel universe that resemble the one in which we live, but I can tweak the narrative. I can tweak the story. So that was how everything began. At one point, I realized around 2003 that drawings, which you can see in the back, which are very important to me, they were not anymore enough for me. Drawings and paintings were not enough, because I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to, I was very interested into social commentary work. And what is better than moving image? What is better than moving image? In order to try to get involved, not just the super educated and intellectual, but also moving image is able to connect to any kind of class of society. And to me, this was a very important starting point.
Okay, as from the collector side, when I first saw your work, I was blown away. And I remember who was picking off those first pieces, and it was like a who's who of the collectors list. So I remember jumping in there, and for me, you know, I saw the Pope, right? This just incredible character that you've developed. You started by releasing your characters, right?
Yes.
And then you slowly introduce the world.
Yes.
And in kind of like the studio visit with you, I saw just the incredible attention, immaculate attention to detail every step of the way. And you know, we'll be showing your work along with this so people can see. But just can you describe that process of starting with the character and building it up and building the story, and how you kind of imbue each step of the way with your touch?
Yeah, like, you know, again, like, you know, the most important thing to me was to be an artist, you know, before, of course, I jumped also into NFT. I came with a lot of experience, you know. So, but, you know, if we start from my traditional career, I always been an artist that I wasn't there just to please American aristocracy, you know, and please the 1%. To me, I was here with the mission of expressing, like, you know, often some truth that people don't want to hear. For example, like, you know, I was probably, you know, like one of the first artists in traditional art world that was criticizing American narrative, American historical narrative, which now is the #1 trend in the arts. You know, so for me, having a cultural impact was #1 thing. You know, in fact, for many years, with the kind of media that I using, which is video and digital mainly work, I had really hard time, like, you know, to support this huge project, you know. So, but anyway, you know, like things that happen mostly like through. Usually, a series is born when there is something shocking it happened in society. For example, the 2010 economic crisis was for me. I remember I created this video installation called Uzbek City, was a satire on Wall Street and all the financial market. So step by step, I started to create the first character, which in the crypto world hasn't been seen yet, but it's one of my favorite character. It's called Dick Richman. And basically what I did, I took the G-Man from Half-Life 2, which was a very revolutionary character, and I simply replaced the digital texture with my hand-painted texture. Like, you know, and with extreme simplicity, I create a world that extremely unique. Like, you know, that probably like it's kind of shocking for the simplicity of, you know, because when you paint, when you replace digital texture with hand-painted texture, I mean, immediately you're outside the sphere of video game. Like, you know, you enter into a sort of like cinema kind of like. So most of the case, definitely the society that surround me is the #1 that trigger, you know, a series. And for sure, like, you know, I'm very influenced by books, probably because I'm self-educated. I've been obsessed about books still today. I'm reading from financial book to historical book to poetry, and, you know, so all of these kind of books. And somehow, when I find, like, you know, a book that really intrigued me, I try to translate into image the word that are somehow I'm kind of like, you know, and of course always like tweaking or inventing and mixing, you know, with all of my reference from, you know, old master, like, you know, and contemporary culture, like, you know, so, and, you know, this is, for example, the drawing that is behind me is kind of like a very example, like, you know, basically we have Warren Buffett dressed as a 16th century nobleman. We have Oprah Winfrey dressed as Cleopatra, but somehow there's something in between avatars and saint, you know, so you have this sort of like metaverse environment, like, you know, yeah, again, like, you know, it's this kind of blending of like all of my knowledge that I develop and my passion about the craft of making art and contemporary culture, like, you know, and that's what really triggered me. And of course, what excited me is to delivering this thought, this work that I have in many different media. You know, you see, we have a drawing with pastel that simulate a metaverse environment, but this character they're going to be soon painted and bring it into a video game environment, like, you know, so to a VR experience, you know.
And this is what, yeah, this is what really attracted me to crypto art in the first place, and your work in particular is this subtle subversion, this subtle play with history, kind of like shining the mirror to what was, and then like expanding the possibilities of what could be. You know, when I first went into your bathhouse experience in virtual reality, I was blown away because this was so far forward as just an art piece that it could not be really even like conceptualized in a commercial aspect. But the whole scene itself really reminded me of just like the behind closed doors, like gross excess of like the New York City club scene at a time prior to social media.
Yeah, and if I can add something, Colborn, like you know, I tell you very briefly the story. So this piece that I developed in 2021 has been in my head for many years, like, you know, and everything starts from a frescoes by Annibale Carracci called "The Triumph of Bacchus," which was his masterpiece, and basically, you know, I just took this idea of how can create an immersive experience like you have when you are going on incredible frescoes using digital tools, you know. And when I start to work with VR, my ultimate goal was to reach in a digitalized world the experience of people that are going to see the Sistine Chapel, like, you know, and also the theme, the Bacchanalians, the bathhouse. These are themes that somehow, since the ancient Roman, they were showing the complete, you know, indulgence of aristocracy and the ruling class. And in this case, I brought all of these characters from ancient Greece to contemporary America to ancient Egypt to 19th century, 20th century Italy. So I blend all of these characters into a no-time space in which I like to show how, you know, the ruling class and the super wealthy, they're so detached from everyone else, you know, and that was like, you know, like this was the real goal of the bathhouse, you know, and this world, you know.
Where can people experience the bathhouse?
Well, the people, they can experience very soon. I'm going to install it at the Morris Museum on September 15. I have a solo show, and we both going to show the 6 by 20 feet installation, but also the VR experience. But also, because I care a lot about the people that they cannot physically attend my exhibition, you can go to VR chat with your own avatar, and you just search in the world, you search for bathhouse or Federico Solmi, and you can jump into the bathhouse with your character and meet with your friend, you know. So
it is a highly recommended experience. Yeah, it was, frankly, it was when I began working with artists to put on solo shows, it was the type of immersion inside of the artist's mind that I was really hoping to create. And in all my time in this space, I really, and I say this truly, I have not seen anything as powerful as that work that you've created.
Thank you.
And I know you've talked before about doing other scenes, you know, gallery work that had really like no commercial application.
Oh, never. And that, to me, you know, I was very lucky that I found great supporter, great collector, but, you know, I never done the typical things that everybody does, which is like oil on canvas and things like this. I was always been pushing the boundary to an extreme, and you know, to me, as long as I could pay my assistant and be able to create a legacy, a strong vision, that's all I need, you know. So collectors are important, curators are important, but I never develop work with the idea of selling, because I know if you do great work, you're going to sell no matter what. Maybe it takes 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
When I did the bathhouse, I said, wow, I think this will take maybe a couple of years just to get understood, another 3 or 4 to get into the museum that I wanted, and maybe 10 to be acquired. So
Yeah.
that's to me is normal. So.
Yeah. In my opinion, a real masterpiece. Um, and even the glimpses of you showed me of stuff that you're working on is so far ahead. I have nothing but respect for the way that the values of your artwork kind of like transmutes into you as a person, and you just continue to push like
Yeah,
everything to the max, like razor thin margin.
I'm a
It's
hard head. Well, I think. Well, first of all, let me add you one thing. It's great that Also, I remember when you talk about your museum and the church. If you think about it, we're talking about immersive experience, but think about the first time art was, somehow brought into this planet. We're cave.
yeah.
We're cave. The cave was an immersive, must have been an incredible immersive experience. When we think about it, video installation, early cinema. Can you imagine the emotional impact to go and see one of the German expressionist film in the 1920 with a live orchestra playing the soundtrack, So, in a way, we do so much progress, but then we realize that we always have a sort of nostalgic view of the world. In a way, to me, the VR was represent that, to give to the viewer a very intimate connection with the world built by the artist. And also, the incredible things about VR is that the spectator, instead of being simply in front of a video, become the narrator. So he can, with this controller, he can decide the story. And these are very important things conceptually, I think, in my opinion.
And I mean, maybe that's what resonated so powerfully for me with the bathhouse, is that I was no longer kind of on the outside looking in. I was a participant, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
presume the identity of effectively myself. The immersion is so strong and powerful that you are a participant. You're drinking champagne, you're smoking cigars, you're running through the bathhouse waters. And kind of just in relation to your work, how and where we're going as like society and people, how powerful is that VR mechanism to you to, one, like transport people out of themselves, but also for them to for it to induce empathy of different situations and experiences.
I agree. Because in front of the Mona Lisa, is an incredible painting. But you're never in control. So, and I think the more we're moving forward, for sure. VR or tools that are similar to VR, or for example, like video immersive cinema experience, this kind of like room in which the spectator can enter into a world. And basically enter into a world, it means escaping from this world, which is really what a lot of people need. The success of gaming and the digital world, and it's because people they feel the need to escape from reality, and that's cannot be underestimated.
And I really actually think that Grand Theft Auto point is so salient, because that's what I remember. Suddenly here is this world with all these rules, and then suddenly you get to be on the other side and break them, and you get that weird like sensory satisfaction of being able to be more free.
Yes.
Yeah. And I I remember that very, very fondly as well.
To me, my biggest memory was the shock of like be able to change a radio station, because people now take for granted anything, but to be able to go in a police car and put Frank Sinatra, I mean, was like shocking, like
Yeah.
and yeah, like and look what happened, like I remember when I did this first video animation, of course, nobody took me seriously, because especially in the traditional war, they were saying, "Oh, look at that! This guy is playing with popular culture, lowbrow culture." But in my head, I said, "Man, I need 10 years. I need 10 years to build 6 or 7 major video work, which they would take at the time sometime 1 to 2 years to develop videos that were very complex, create all of my own assets, and yeah, and I believe it. I knew that the gaming world will take over, like so there's no question about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess I have to ask, the beautiful paintings behind you, uh, what compels you also to return to that medium?
Well, believe it or not, since you came to my studio, I was kind of stuck a little bit, like, as we discussed. And what I did, I took some of the most iconic image that I create digitally, and I converted into sketch and drawings and pastel. And while I'm working on this image that were unresolved, I was taking note, and now everything is so clear to me. Like I did so much progress since you came to the studio, and I was stuck for a few weeks. I think like this back and forth of like virtual world and the tradition, it give an answer to one another. Like so this image, they're basically like this digital skeleton that are coming from the character I create with Blender and basically I transport it into a wood panel, and when I start to do this line with ink, they completely change into something like and this is sort of like a I don't know meditation to give me the answer of this very tricky condition of creating like a new body of work. And again, we discussed at the studio, like for many years I was working into try to discover the inaccuracy of American historical narrative, with all of the injustice and all of these lies. I spent probably like 6 to 7 years, like when it was no fun. And I remember that people would say, "Federico, you can say these things." No, So
Yeah.
anyway, and a year ago, 2 years ago, when everybody started doing this kind of work, I said, "Wow, I need to try to imagine the society of the future, because we have all of these incredible change in society, and let's try to think, oh, how will be the metaverse? What kind of world will be?" So, and I have this idea of creating like, this world that, of course is not a physical world. And somehow there is so little elements that are out there to try to envision how society will be, how monuments are going to be. They're going to be hologram instead of building, of course, statue. They're simply going to replace when a hero or a myth got out of fashion. They're simply going to swap a USB flash drive. They're going to project, So yeah, are we going to live in buildings? Are we going to, so all of these kind of questions, and actually, I didn't really find a book, that helped me to envision this world. So that's why, I think I've been struggling, a bit. But the last few weeks, I had a blast, so I had a blast.
I find this more and more, and hear people talking about it. Many have spent 2 years, a year, just like fully into this thing, like hyper obsessed. But there has to be a return to some balance, some kind of spectrum of the work, and that's what I really love. I love, like when you might be stuck here, to return to the physical, like as you know, when I'm stuck on the museum, you know, as you said earlier, I'm building a giant cave, right? And this is just like
Exactly.
one of those long-term projects. So to bounce back and have kind of the physical inform the digital, and have that blend as you kind of painted that TV with you know the commentary in it. It's exceptional, and I think that is something that is like a very important lesson for people to begin to like grasp and synthesize, that it can't just be all on the gas on the digital all the time.
Yeah, I think like in a way, I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky, but I am a kind of an artist that is really live in the moment in which we don't understand when the physical war ends and the virtual begin. Like in a way, this conflict that is in society, which I believe a lot of artists they are very sensitive. I feel, in a way, is this conflict that I'm carrying every day. Like so that I'm tremendously attached to history and nature and the physical world, but at the same time, I understand how attractive is, you know, a war that is in the making, like so and I think like this dichotomy, like is is something that is more present in younger artists 20 years younger than me, but since I always been involved into cutting edge technology and working with students probably and teaching university and being exposed and look for always where society is going. I think that I'm sort of embracing this kind of like struggle, and I think you can see it in all of the work, like like this idea of like these icons that are something between avatar and saint, a religious figure or character that can be playing a game, like so.
It's
Um,
it yeah, it goes back to the way we tell stories. It's totally universal. Like I don't know Warren Buffett, you don't know Oprah Winfrey. Like, so who are they to us? They're kind of like the projection of a character inside of something that is being fed
yeah.
for a reason, and in a system that is very much self-propagating. Um, so we only really know them in the virtual, or as like a symbol of something that is perhaps designed to be aspirational. It Yeah, it feels very unreal. It feels very fake.
Well, the moment in which, like you have this big giant character that they are populating our media, and the moment that they are there, like they're looking at us from above to below, So in a way, I think America and myself and many other people, we are obsessed with myth, and but it's not just America. The ancient Greek, they were obsessed by myth. So in a way, like we are haunted by create these
Yeah.
characters that are bigger than life. And until 20 years ago, like it was just like in the media and on TV. Now an avatar, like or like a gaming character, can become as big as one of these figures. For example, I remember, like I go again, like many people that are involved into the gaming. I remember the G-Man when it came out, like this kind of character that resemble like a very aristocratic, detached, cold character. I think like for many young people that now they are adult, it was like an icon like Marilyn Monroe. Like I
Yeah.
think like the virtual world can also create this kind of impact to a new generation. Like and which is kind of interesting. Like
I hope, I hope there is a way to like translate the attention that is placed on somebody like Kim Kardashian into like who is the person that you want to be and represent yourself as. And I think this is very much the promise of the metaverse, is that like there is a way to more fully represent what you imagine instead of kind of what you idolize, and in that there is more of an equilibrium and balance of power.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Like in a way, people, they cannot free themselves in society because obviously maybe they have a position they cannot let go themselves. Like, they can go wild into the virtual world. So because at the end, like, if you think about American society, and I don't want to criticize just American society, because I'm just saying about American society because I've been spending over 20 years. So who are the people that can really say the truth?
Yeah.
I mean, it cannot be a corporate executive, it cannot be a politician. Everyone, they are so entangled into these power games that really one of the few people that they can say what really they think about the world, which is they're artists. They're artists.
Yeah.
And this is few artists, because a lot of artists in my same situation, they're just very busy in cashing in, or they're afraid to break like like some kind of equilibrium, like so. Yeah, this is an amazing thing. Like, art is still more than ever an incredible role in society, like
Yeah. And I think this, going back to crypto art, I think this is the power of this market. Like, you can choose to be totally anonymous. You can have your work shared. It doesn't have to pass through any intermediary. It is immutable. It is uncensorable. And in that, it is a form of truth telling. And, I saw so much more boldness and creativity of spirit in the early days of this, when people, frankly, thought that they weren't being watched, right? And then, like, a lot of, in my opinion, the best artists in the space, when the world turned its eyes on them, well, then it's like, it's too much, and the narrative gets all shifted and changed. So it is.
Of course, like, I think, like, in my understanding, like, I'm very curious to see, how all of these, let's say, leading crypto artists that have been on the space since 2017, they're going to be able to reinvent themselves. Because, for example, like, in my career, which I've been showing for almost 20 years, I constantly reinvent, my media and the delivery, like, so. And, like, I think, because at the end, a great artist is not an artist that has a good season of 3 years,
Right.
A good artist is an artist that step by step, with the up and down of career that occur to anyone, is able to impose to the world his own vision, and not necessarily everyone has to embrace it, and but I think, like, legacy, coherence, and to create this universe that is very unique and is not repetitive is tremendously important. And we are in a very early phase still of the crypto world, like, so it's been, to me, incredible to being exposed to some of these leading artists, because for me it was a breath of fresh air, so I see a world that was blooming, and it was very inspiring to see things that we never seen in a traditional world, but now, I would like to see step by step, especially the leading artists, that they're able to take it to the next level, like, and I know some they can,
It's actually, I can think of actually names of people that I know will be able to do it, and there's other people who I know must be incredibly stuck, because it.
And then we see the real artist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then in 3, 5, 10 years, we get to see too many people treated it like a marathon, like a gold rush, and
yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
It's never good,
Yeah.
because intimacy. I mean, it sounds like absurd, but intimacy and also, I don't want to feel like too much of like nostalgic, but an artist also need to have some doubt, need to question himself, and when you have success, automatically become like a factory, like So I don't know. I feel that they a good up and down. They're very good for the art and for the artist. Even if it's not fun to be in a down period, it's not fun at all.
Well, I know that well, yeah.
Yeah. But this idea that you always slightly underestimate, you always want to make it bigger, you always want to try, that is good things for art. That's good things for artists, that's good things for the space,
That's what I was saying before about you, is I just respect the hunger, right? I just respect the hunger. It does, everything you do is a Sistine Chapel on top of a Sistine Chapel on top, and I know it will just never stop, because what you see and what you want to build and the way you create is like from the ground up, building just a tower to the sky, really.
Yeah, and in fact, one of my favorite books I ever read was called Anger by Knut Hamsun. Was a Norwegian writer, and basically, it was written, I think, around 1899, 1900, and it was a phenomenal book about an artist with incredible potential that was basically starving because the path of being a successful artist was very it's sometimes very long, but I can anger is a very important thing, and in fact, if you want to talk about the most probably well-known artist in the world, Picasso, his most productive decade was from 80 to 90. That's when Picasso did the most number of work. I mean, say it all. The guy had everything, but he was starving to make art. He was desperately busy to fight death, to fight, just being a successful artist. So that's an example that young artists should look. From 80 to 90. Try to have the power, man. From 80 to 90. People from 80 to 90, most of the people, they never get there. But, that's what I want to be, No matter what, if I have success or we're going a down period, I think the motivation, the one that kick you out of bed is what the artist should dream,
I've learned a lot in this conversation, man. Thank you. This
was me too.
Yeah. Because I feel that so much too, and it was, obviously part of my motivation to get out of a boxed house and into a church and invite people in. And I think kind of we need these new spaces, we need these new environments. We need to kind of lift the ceiling on everything. And the beauty, of course, of the space is that it does really push people to push themselves, but also to kind of come together and create bigger and think about different models and new models, because the metaverse as digital land and digital community, it feels totally wide open.
Yeah, and in a way, it's pretty, from an artist point of view, you're pretty much doing the same things that I'm doing in my studio. So you're trying to bring something that belong technically to the virtual realm. You want to put in a physical screen into a church. So in a way, you try to sanctify this virtual creation into a place of cult,
Right.
And that's pretty amazing, because I think that it's great that this work could be seen online and can be shared for billions of people, but it's also nice. And I did it the other day. I had a couple of friends I haven't seen in 5 years. They came to my home and we put the NFT, the melancholic seer about Elon Musk. I put it in my big TV. I loop it, and people love it, and I love it too. Like, it's nice that it's nice that everyone can do that too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'll have to project the Pope right next to the stained glass for you. I'll send that.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
In a church.
Yeah. We got to wrap. So please first tell people where they can see your upcoming solo show.
Yeah, I have, but first of all, check my NFT in Super just to understand what I've been doing, or my website, federicosolmi.com. I have two main projects that are happening right now. One is this survey exhibition of the past 10 years of my work at the Morris Museum in Morristown, New Jersey, open on September 15. It's going to be up for 5 months. And also for this exhibition, I have a book coming, which is a very important book. It's a monograph. It will explore all of my career, and is printed by Black Dog Press in the UK, and is going to be soon available, like in October 2022. These are two major projects that I've been working for so much.
Super. Yeah, congratulations on both. It's really exciting. Yeah. We'll send it home. I'm Colborn Bell, Museum of Crypto Art, artist Federico Solmi. And thank you, DMINTI, so much for putting this all together.
Thank you so much, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Breaking news.